If you're someone struggling to maximize your productivity, well, this video is for you. I'm gonna show you 4 different ways that I stay productive throughout my entire year, and I'm able to avoid that burnout. Let's get into it. So we've all been there, right? We get into a situation where we need to be ultra productive and we have to produce so much work, but you put in so much effort, and at the end of the day, 2 months down the line, you feel burnt out. You feel like you just can't handle it anymore, and you just revert back to your old self. Well, that's because productivity is not just to be productive and just to do the work, but you actually have to build it into your habits. In order to maintain the level of productivity throughout the year, consistency is key. You have to be able to actually integrate things into your habits to make sure that you don't feel that burnout. So this is where I'm gonna show you guys how I stay productive all the time, and I'm able to work the 9 to 10 hours a day without feeling that burnout. The first thing is time blocking. It's done by all the successful people. You hear it online all the time. You essentially blocking out the time so that you can actually get to a very specific task. I do this with the bigger tasks, right? So when you're building out designs or wireframes where you actually need deep work, I call it deep concentration. That's where I need to block that time off. So A, I don't get any distractions, and B, I know what I'm working on. One of the biggest challenges with anybody, and no one can argue with this, is that when we are working, we have a mental capacity every single day. And the more capacity you reduce for making decisions on a daily basis, the more capacity you have to give to your work and productivity. That's where working smart versus working hard becomes really crucial. So what I do every Sunday, I sit down, I actually plan out my week and what I need to get done. I prioritize my tasks, and I'm talking big chunk tasks, right? Like things that are gonna take you an hour to 2 hours. I don't go beyond 2 hours, that's my threshold. So if a task takes more than 2 hours, I'll break it down further so that it ends up being an hour to 2 hours. Then what I'll do is I'll actually plan it out and book myself in there in my calendar for the week so that I know what I'm working on and when. So when the day comes, I literally just get to the office, I pop over my calendar, and I know exactly what I'm doing for that day. Of course, you gotta be flexible. So you're gonna have to move things around, but at the end of the day, you're moving a calendar event versus pushing back a task that you're just eventually never gonna get to. Another big thing that I work on for my time blocking is I also schedule in to-dos and my startup and shutdown rituals. So what does the rituals mean? So essentially what I do is I focus on simply waking up, doing my thing in the morning. Then when I get into the office, I have a little ritual that I follow every single morning, which is like following up on my emails, following up on my calls. I give myself 30 minutes to do all that. Then I get into my time block tasks. And then if I have a lot of little tasks that I gotta do, these are like things that are 5 minutes, 20 minutes max, then I will actually block out like a to-do block where I will just focus on getting my tasks done for the day. So again, time blocking is so critical to being productive because you do not have to think about what you need to get done for the day. It's just in your calendar and you're ready to go. The next big thing that I do, and this is why I do not experience burnout as often as most people do, is because I do self-care. Self-care is not necessarily I have to sit down and meditate or whatever it is that everyone says online. To me, self-care is a personal thing. Everybody is different. So at the end of the day, you have to figure out what works for you and what helps you decompress. That's what self-care is. One of the biggest things for me is sleep. 100%, I have to get 8 hours of sleep. I do not negotiate with that. That's a critical part. When I don't get enough sleep, I feel it for the day. The second big thing is I like to meditate. That's my thing. So every morning I sit down and I actually meditate. To me, it just helps me clear my mind and gets me ready for the day. Another couple of things you can do is journaling. One of the big things, for example, Dan Martell that does on a regular basis, and he, mentions it all the time that he gifts this product is the 5-minute journaling. It's basically a mental and health check for yourself every single day. So you're able to actually sit down and be like, okay, I'm grateful for things and what am I going to achieve for the day? Those are the things that are going to help you feel better every single day on what you're doing. That's self-care. You have to essentially feel great about what you're doing every single day without feeling the stress and the problem and the pains. So make sure you find out what works for you and really, really dive into it, because you're gonna have to try 100 different things before you realize your perfect routine. So start now, because it becomes really critical. Listen, meditation is not for everybody. Journaling is not for everybody. Find your thing. Don't listen to everybody and what everybody else does. That's not going to help you. Focus on you. My third biggest thing that helps me stay maximized with my productivity is automation and utilizing tools. I do not understand why everyone wants to always try doing things themselves. You're just working hard. You're not being smart. You have to be smart about your productivity and being efficient with your time. That's what's going to help you become productive, and that's what's going to help you not burn out. So one of the key things that I do, for example, is I utilize a calendar and a to-do list called Motion. It's what I use to basically plan out. So remember how I said I plan out my every week on Sundays, and I plan out what I need to get done. The best part about Motion for me is I don't have to think about where to place all those time blocks. Motion does it for me. It's automated. They have the algorithm based on my priority, based on high, low, ASAP, medium. It prioritizes my work for me and basically fills my calendar after all the meetings and calendar things that I've set up already. It just fills my calendar. So every day I open up my calendar, it's already preset. I know exactly what I'm doing for the day. So I use Motion to automate that. I don't even have to do it. I just put in the task, how long it's going to take me, and when it's due. And it does all the work for me. Another big thing that you can utilize is Zapier. Zapier automating emails, automates a lot of things, calendars. So there's a lot of ways that you can utilize Zapier to automate your workflow. Depends on who you are, right? For example, for me, emails are the thing that I utilize a lot. So I integrate with Zapier on a regular basis with calendar integrations, and we utilize Canva, for example, marketing. So all these things that I do on the side, I have it already integrated with Zapier so that when I finish something, it automatically sends an email out to my marketing team or my development team. So they have a full scope of what's happening without me having to do any of the work. So utilize the tools that are available to you out there that will help you become so much more efficient. Remember, efficiency at the end of the day equals productivity. Because if you can save some time, you can gain some time to do other things somewhere else. Last but not least, we have to set boundaries for ourselves. Especially if you're a solo founder, it is so hard to set boundaries because you're always trying to focus on the customer. That's fair. But you're also trying to maintain those friendships. And that's also fair. But you're only human. So don't overstretch yourself. Set boundaries beforehand. Understand what you're willing to lose and what you're willing to not compromise on. For example, relationship, especially if you're in a relationship, you want to prioritize your relationship. So make sure you understand, okay, date nights become critical. Quarterly planning with your significant other becomes critical. Keep yourself aligned with them. That becomes a priority. That's setting yourself a boundary where you can say, okay, I will always make sure that every single week I'm spending at least 2 or 3 hours of date night, quality time. Maybe that's your significant other's love language, right? So you have to be able to set boundary beforehand. That way, when it comes time to make a decision, you've already set those boundaries for yourself. You already said, no, this week I haven't done 2 or 3 hours of quality time with my partner. So there you go. That's your job. That is how you're going to make decisions. Like I said, every single day you are exposed to making decisions on a regular basis. Whatever you can offload, whatever you can take off the plate and make sure that it's already pre-planned for you, that will solve so many of your pains and so many of your problems. And that ultimately pushes back on burnout, making sure that you're not becoming inefficient and just burnt out and overwhelmed, but you're actually being super productive, maximizing your time to being super efficient in your day-to-day operation. Remember, as a solo founder, you don't have enough time in a day to do all the work. So make sure that you understand what is priority and what is not. So those are just 4 things that I utilize to make sure that I stay productive, because my team needs me at my best. I need to be at my best to make sure that my company can thrive. So let's go back to what I do every single day. And remember, these are just what works for me. It took me 5 to 6 years before I've actually perfected this. So make sure you understand, you don't have to get it tomorrow. Do your research. Go out there. Make sure you try different things. If it doesn't work, move on, understand why it didn't work, and come back to it and change it up and continuously recycle that so that you finalize what works for you. So for me, time blocking is critical. I set my tasks on a Sunday, I set my priorities, and I block the time off to get it done, okay? That way, when the day comes, I don't have to think about it. It's already pre-planned for me. Number 2 is self-care. This can mean a lot for a lot of different people, okay? So make sure you understand what works for you, what you need to do to decompress. That's critical. It's all about taking the time to yourself to make sure you are completely and utterly happy with what you've done for that day, and that your state of mind is still positive. Because in order to have grit, you have to have a positive state of mind. So the key to being a founder and to having grit is to continuously have a positive state of mind. The more positive, the more motivation you're gonna have to continue the work. Thirdly, utilize your automation and tools that are available right now, like Zapier, Motion, that I use religiously, right? Make sure you go in there and take the things that are little tasks, like for example, letting your team know you've done something, take that off your plate, automate it. That way you don't have to worry about it. Once you do the work on, for example, let's say you have a marketing thing you have to do on Notion. When you say it's complete, you can have Zapier automatically send an email out to your marketing team to let them know that that is done and it's ready for them to pay attention to. So automate and utilize the tools that work for you, that automate everything, especially workflow. Last but not least, set your boundaries. Understand your priorities, because you're only human. You're not going to be able to do everything. Set your priorities, understand what it is. That way, when it comes time, for example, when a friend asks you to go out, you know, is this a yes or is this a no? Does it fit with my priorities? Have I predetermined what I want to do? If it's a yes, go ahead. If not, no. Just say no. It's okay to say no. Again, you're only human. There's 2 things you got to juggle: the company and family and friends. So make sure you have boundaries between the both of them. Well, thank you all for listening. I hope this video helps you guys understand what you need to get done to maximize your productivity and be able to avoid that burnout, that founder depression, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, these tips will help you keep your grit and keep you focused and keep you driving forward. If you guys have any thoughts or comments, please let us know down below. Otherwise, subscribe, follow, and there's gonna be weekly videos on how founders, especially you or anybody else, can become more productive and more efficient. Until next time, Korner out.